Ever since I was a kid, Easter never really made sense to me. On the one hand, you have Easter eggs and chocolate and magical bunnies, and on the other hand, you have Jesus dying a brutal death on the cross. How can this also be celebrating this? I wanted to understand how this all made sense. Where did Easter come from? Why do we paint eggs different colors? Where did the Easter bunny come from? And while looking for the answers to these questions, I discovered stories that completely changed how I view Easter and showed me that there's so much more to this strange holiday. I decided the best place to start my investigation was to look at where the name Easter came from. Take a look at this article published by the New York Post in 2022, claiming that Easter isn't a Christian holiday, but instead a pagan festival for the goddess Ostara, and this is a popular opinion online. The claim goes something like this. In 725 AD, a monk named Saint Bede observed that the local people in England would celebrate pagan festivals for the coming spring. This was a pretty normal practice in Europe, but what's different here is he notes that the month Ostaroma was named after the pagan goddess Ostara, the goddess of new life and fertility. So as Christianity spread through England, new Christians simply adopted the pagan festivals and traditions to now celebrate Easter. And this is where we get the eggs and the bunnies. These are all symbols of fertility and spring. But here's the thing. St. Bede probably made these things up.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Or at least he was misinformed about the goddess Ostara. Historians and scholars have found no historical evidence of the goddess Ostara. We don't know when, where, how people worshipped her, other than this passing reference in St. Bede's book. In fact, Ostarama, the month which is supposedly named after this goddess, was most likely derived from the German words for new dawn or spring, and not from a pagan goddess. So then why do people claim this? Well, in the 19th century, this guy wrote a speculative work on the origins of Easter. But this man's claim was more like historical guesses, based on no historical accounts or record. The real story of Easter is much older and far less pagan than these claims suggest. The name Easter does come from the name Istaroma, but Easter hasn't always been called Easter. This celebration can be traced all the way back to the early church. The first historic account of Easter was in 222 AD, where this guy, Hippolytus, created a tool that calculated the future dates of Paschal. Notice how I said Paschal and not Easter. That's because almost every other language, other than English and German, refer to Easter as Paschal, named after the Jewish Passover. We know from the scriptural accounts that Jesus died right after Passover. And since most of the early church was Jewish, it would make sense that they would remember it in connection to Passover. So fast forward to St. Bede's time, the Christian faith had spread through Europe, and with it, so did the celebration. In Europe, Paschal falls right at the turn of spring, or in the month of Ostaroma, meaning that this likely just became synonymous with the name over time. Think more like the 4th of July. It's more about the things that happened on that day than it is actually about the day itself. This is likely what happened to Easter, and all the pagan stuff. So that's where Easter came from. But that doesn't fully explain the eggs and the bunnies. For that, we need to look back to the Middle Ages, starting with the Easter egg.
You're looking at a very unusual kind of egg.
So Easter has always been a Christian holiday, but the tradition of painting eggs goes all the way back to the Middle Ages and has been used for a lot more than just decoration. Around the 13th century, the Latin Church had very strict rules around the season of Lent, which is the tradition of fasting for 40 days until Easter. Christians traditionally fasted from meat, dairy, and eggs, but the last one created a problem. While the peasants were fasting, the chickens, of course, still laid the egg, which led to a bunch of eggs that they didn't know what to do with. So the peasants started to hard-boil the eggs to preserve them. And this led to having a lot of eggs come Easter. And as time went on, these eggs were just incorporated into the festivities of Easter. All of this just a fun tradition. The earliest record of painting eggs goes back to King Edward I, who in 1290 ordered the decoration of 450 eggs with golden leaf as an Easter present for his friends and family. Yeah. This is my egg. It's not as good. The tradition of painting eggs was just fun, but that wasn't its only purpose. As this tradition spread through Eastern Europe, painting red eggs started to be used as a symbol of Jesus' death and resurrection. It was also an act of defiance in the face of persecution, like in the former USSR, where workers began to bring a single red egg in their lunch as a secret way of expressing their faith. Or in communist Albania, where families would dye eggs in secret using beet juice and onion skins to avoid tipping off authorities. But nowhere was this tradition more a sign of hope than in communist Romania. In the 1900s, Romania was ruled by a brutal brutal dictator, and the church was under intense persecution, with many Christians being imprisoned. For these prisoners, this egg became a symbol of defiance and faith. There are stories of prisoners smuggling this egg into prison and dividing it into small pieces among inmates. They called it a taste of resurrection, and this was in direct defiance of the goal of the prison, which was to break these men down. These prisoners would find a way to celebrate Easter with nothing, giving me a whole new perspective of painting eggs with my family. But I still have one question about Easter. Where does this guy come in?
Hey everybody, strike up the band!
This is definitely the strangest part of Easter for me.
You're the best thing to come along since the Easter Bunny.
Where do I start? The first record of an Easter bunny was from the 15th century German folk legend, where the Easter hare, not yet a bunny, would hide eggs in the garden for children to find. And how we went from that to the Easter bunny was in the 1800s, German Dutch settlers moved to Pennsylvania in the US. And with them, they brought the tradition of the Easter hare. But as time went on, they started referring to it as the Easter bunny, because hares aren't really found in that part of the world. This tradition is similar to how Easter got its name. It's more about springtime, with bunnies and hares just being associated with Easter. And I think this points to something we miss about Easter. Lots of people get hung up about the traditions and the festivities, but Easter is more just about celebrating than anything else. I remember as a kid during the Easter service, I had to stand in the back because there were so many people there, and they got to hear the story of Jesus for the first time. Or even here in Albania, where my wife and I are missionaries, we're inviting people that don't know Jesus to come and celebrate with us so that they would hear the gospel for the first time. Easter is about more than what I thought of as a kid. It's more than the bunny and the chocolates and the painted eggs. But it's not that Easter is secretly evil or pagan, but because it's one of the greatest opportunities that we get to share the story of Christianity with the world that is yet to hear it. Hey, that's it for this video, but if you're new here, which you probably are, I'm Liam and this is Mission Explained, a place for mission stories driven by curiosity and impact. If you want more videos like this, consider subscribing. I've just launched this channel and I have so much more planned for it. Anyway, until next time.